Sean, we good to go?
Yes, you are.
Great, thank you. Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight, June 15th Design Review Commission meeting. We'll go ahead and establish a quorum at this point. So if I call your name out, if you just say aye if you're here. Frank,
I don't see him.
Frank not here.
He was here earlier.
I'll call on him last. Sam,
Here.
Mike,
Here,
Jude,
Here.
and myself is 4. That is a quorum. Sean, should we give Frank another minute or two? Your mic's off.
you are muted.
I mean, you can move forward when he joins. I'll just note if you can just acknowledge when he arrives, so then I can note the time of his arrival.
Oh,
It'll
I
just
saw
be-
I just saw him. Commissioner Bishop just went online. Yeah.
Commissioner
Yep.
Bishop, you on?
Yeah. Bottom right.
Frank?
Let me try to.
He's muted.
Frank, if you can unmute yourself.
It's gone now.
Well, he's obviously having problems get through, so why don't we go ahead and move forward and we'll note when he does join the meeting. Sean, do we have any public comments that are not on the agenda?
No, I am not aware of any public comments not on the agenda. If there's any member of the public who would like to speak regarding an item not on the agenda, please raise your hand. If you're not able to raise your hand, please unmute yourself. But this is only for items not on the agenda. If you currently want to speak about an item on the agenda, please wait until that item is called by the chair. Are there any individuals?
Looks like Joyce has her hand up.
Can you hear Frank now?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Frank. So at 7:02, Frank is here. That
I was here. I had to hang up and dial back in. I have no idea what happened.
okay.
All right.
So Sean, was there a Joyce who had a hand up?
Yeah, right to your right in the middle of the screen.
Joyce, did you wish to speak on an item not on the agenda? If so, please unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me? Hi, I just want to comment on one of the projects. So I don't know if that's considered part of the agenda. One of the projects as in 899 Madonna Way.
Yeah, it is. So once we get to that point, then we'll open it up at a point in time for public comment. So if you just hold your question until then, thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and move forward to consent calendar and review the Design Review Commission minutes. Does anyone have any comments or changes that need to be of a record?
This is
No
fine.
comment. No comments.
None? Okay. And Joyce, could you mute yourself, please?
She is muted.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, do I have a motion on the minutes?
So moved.
We need a motion first.
Moving the motion to adopt the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, we'll go in order. Frank,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
Mike,
aye.
Jude,
Aye.
and David, I as well. So the minutes are approved. We'll go ahead and move into the public hearing. The first item on the agenda is SC 21-0051 with a variance V22-0001 and an ADU 21-0090, which we will not comment on the ADU portion of it. If we
Chair
could get-
Blockus, sorry.
Oh, yes, I
Yeah.
apologize.
I have to recuse myself because I know the applicant and I have a business relationship with the applicant. So
Okay.
I'm gonna turn off the video.
Great, and we'll
Thanks.
contact you as soon as we're through with that particular item.
All right.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, now we will ask staff to give us a report on the project.
Yes, let me move some of these things. I'm sorry. Okay, good evening, Chair Blockus and commissioners, and I'm make sure I'm muted. Yes. And commissioners, the application before you tonight is a variance to allow encroachments into the daylight plane and a design review for a new house with a basement on a vacant lot. Staff would like to note in the title section, I believe, of the staff report, it did reference a variance for increased height, reduced setbacks, and additional story. That is not for this project, and that is an error. The sole variance is for a daylight plane encroachment. The project variances include a daylight plane encroachment on both sides of the structure and design review for a new two-story house that is 4,023 square feet in size. I can't see any of you, so 1 second. Here we go. The slide before you is a rendering of the proposed structure at street level, and then it shows the step down structure visible along the sides on Madonna Street. The slide before you is the neighborhood context map. It shows the relationship of the structure. The structure is located here, and then we have 901 and 897, or 901 and 897. Madonna Way reflected here. And then we also have Union Presbyterian Church of Los Altos located at this site, directly behind the site, 899 Madonna. Included in your packet are examples of the homes that are located along Madonna. And those are available in your packet on sheet A12. This provides a aerial photograph again that gives you a better understanding of the relationship of this lot here, which is a very steeply existing hillside development. The house at 897, which is oriented to the rear property line here, and then we have 901 Madonna, which is located here to the right of the site. And then we have an existing church site directly behind. This is, again, a rendering of the project site. It provides it on the left side going downhill, and then the overall site as drawn here through the hatch lines. As depicted in the design plans, the applicant proposes a new two-story residence with attached garage on a vacant lot. The proposed setbacks meet or exceed the required setbacks for the R110 district, and it complies with the required development standards except for daylight plane. At the main level, which is on sheet A3, due to the slope of the lot, the house will appear as a one-story when viewed from the street, and uses a multi-level floor plan to reduce excessive bulk. This occurs through a series of stepped and articulated massing forms, helping to break up the horizontal massing. At the main level, the upper garage, foyer, living room steps down to a lower level with a dining room, guest bedroom, walk-in closet, and 2 bathrooms. This level steps down to a level with a great room, a kitchen, and a dining room, which is located here. And so if the commissioners aren't aware, you have a garage at a slightly higher level, which steps down into this dining area. And you have another level here at the foyer and living room, stepping down into this dining and guest bedroom area, which then steps down into the great room at the back. Directly off the back of this level, the main floor level, is a deck located off the family room and the nook area of the rear elevation. The lower level includes 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a laundry room, city room, and attached accessory dwelling unit. A deck is located off the sitting room, off the rear of the elevation. This provides the front elevation and the right side elevation. Again, due to the downward slope of the lot, the project is attempting to minimize bulk and scale the second story along the street frontage by attempting to maintain a one-story appearance consistent with adjacent homes. The main floor plate height of the garage, guest bedroom, bathroom, powder room are set relatively low, approximately 9 feet from grade, consistent with the 8 to 9 foot tall plate heights of existing residences. When comparing the floor heights compared to the adjacent street height, the finished floor of that main floor is approximately 13 to 15 feet below the grade at the street line. So substantially below the street grade frontage. The massing at the right side elevations for the living room and dining room are broken up with variations along the elevations of materials, which staff believes helps to break up and diminish bulk concerns. And along the left elevation, the massing of the living room and dining room are diminished by being obscured by the 2-car garage with 9 foot plate heights. As reflected here, we do have taller plate heights, which is what I was reflecting. And so if we go to the next slide, I'll have to go to that. I'm sorry, my slides are out of order. This gives you a photograph of the front of the site from the left front corner, looking towards the front of the property. This is from the right front corner. You can see the degree of slope down the frontage of the property. Again, this is a little bit more centered, but looking towards the left. This gives you the left side of the house. So the dining room that's directly behind this garage does propose a taller plate height, but what the staff noted in the staff report was that the proposed garage, which is at an 8 foot plate height or 9 foot plate height, does reduce the perception of bulk from the taller plates in the living room and dining room of the main house on the main floor. The overall height of the house is constrained to 27 feet, which is the maximum permitted height for the district. The overall height, consistent with the design guidelines, is attempting to cut into the hillside to lower the finished floor grade and to lower the overall height of the structure. In regards to the design, it does propose, I'm sorry, I'm losing my track 1 second. It does propose windows along the left and right side elevations with balconies proposed along the rear elevations off the great room, the main level and bedroom number 5, and the sitting room and ADU at the lower level. The Design Review Commission, when looking at lower sill height windows, traditionally requests that windows be 4'6" in plate height for windows along side elevations. And the DRC does typically recommend maximum depths of balconies of 4 feet for more passive uses. Staffs, as stated in the report, believes that the 2 single-family homes, 897 Madonna, 901 Madonna, and the Union Presbyterian Church directly behind have limited impacts from both privacy perspectives and bulk perspectives due to existing hillside context, existing mature trees, and proposed evergreen screening that's noted on the landscape drawings that are being proposed to reduce perceptions of bulk. The house at 901 Madonna does sit lower than the proposed house and is angled away from the site in a way that limits direct views towards its rear yard. And overall staff does not believe it's identified significant issues in regards to privacy from the windows and balconies proposed. This provides you an aerial photograph of the site located here. Again, 901 is the building is skewed towards the left. It really does not have a defined yard, and views towards this property are more constrained and limited, especially with mature evergreen screening. The applicant is proposing Podocarpus gracilior along the right side for 897 San Antonio. Or Madonna. 897 Madonna, again, is sited oriented towards Madonna. It has a very limited rear yard that's very constrained along the rear. It does have a substantial mature landscaping. The applicant is proposing evergreen screening to address any potential concerns with privacy, but primarily to reduce the potential impact of the of the underfloor spaces that are proposed with design due to the hillside development of the building. This provides another aerial photograph of the proposed site with an example of the location of the church, which the church entry is along the frontage of the building. Along the backside is a preschool. They do have pickup and drop off areas here, but views would be very constrained. Staff did visit this location of the site and is very constrained looking up the hillside to see the building. But it was very difficult to take pictures due to the overgrowth in this area. So staff wasn't able to provide those photographs for you. We do have, from a further direction back, it gives you a view of the site. And again, a lot of the mature trees. There is, a little bit less vegetation on this side of the site, which you can see in the photograph. Sorry, it's dark. This was a picture taken a number of months ago, so it's an older picture, but it does give you an example of some of the degree of slope, and that there is like a small outdoor area. It's not an active space, but there's a little area at the adjacent property. Again, you do have mature trees along the right side of the property. And this is along the left side of the property. In regards to the house, staff does believe, it is adequately screened with trees and various landscaping and proposed screening. Staff overall believes the height of the new house and the proposed lower scale forms, landscape screening does diminish potential bulk and mass impacts to adjacent properties. In regards to the variance, there are 3 findings that are conveyed in the staff report that must be met in order to approve the project. Staff does believe that the project does meet the standards for the district in regards to the objective standards for the proposed project. We do believe, due to the overall degree of slope for the property, that it constrains the potential development of the lot in a way that reduces the potential for development compared to adjacent properties. So staff does recommend approval in regards to the variance. In regards to the landscape plan on sheet L1, we do provide a landscape plan that does again convey the Podocarpus gracilior and the proposed trees on the site. The applicant does recommend elimination of trees as conveyed in the staff report. Staff does recommend condition number 15 to ensure that erosion is minimized, that plantings are appropriate for a hillside development, and that is condition number 15. In addition, staff is recommending condition number 16, due to the loss of 8 coast live oak trees, that the DRC proposed the replacement of at least 3 coast live oak trees on the site. And this concludes staff's presentation, unless there are any questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Sean. Commissioners, do we have any questions for Sean?
Yeah, I do, Sean.
Go ahead, Sam.
It looks like to me a dangerous approach. Are the barricades or the whatever they may be called kind of coming down off the driveway under any kind of safety protocols? Do you have to have a certain height or mass to prevent a car that someone steps on the wrong pedal and does something with?
I could not answer that question. I'm not aware of a particular policy, at least a zoning regulation or building regulation. That the architect is here tonight, so he could potentially address that question. But I am not aware of either a zoning policy or general plan policy or other regulation that would require that.
That's the first thing that I see when I look at the plan, is the first car that goes over. So.
Okay, great.
Anything else, Sam?
No.
Frank, do you have any questions for Sean?
I think so. So,
go ahead.
first of all, can you hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, good. So, Sean, on the daylight plane where the building enters into the daylight plane, are there issues from either of the neighbors in regards to that, and or any comments, which I haven't seen, from either of the neighbors on the left or the right? I don't think the church has a problem with this, but just generally speaking. And then also, I believe we've seen this empty lot before. Isn't that right, with a much larger project that was once proposed?
yes, it was.
Yes, so, so the first question you had, staff hasn't received in writing or by call any public comments regarding neighbors that had concerns with the project or submitted any comments, or otherwise we would have forwarded them to you. So we haven't received any comments so far, unless a member of the public is here tonight and hasn't written to us. In regards to the past project, yes, it was, in the past project, they were looking for a 3-story building. So they're asking for a variance for a 3rd story. It was exceeding the 27-foot height. You know, they were asking for, I think, 4 different daylight plane, or 4 different exceptions from our zoning standards. And the DRC at that point did not approve the project. And so we have a new owner, I believe now, that has taken over the project and has submitted a different project. He has worked with staff for a number of months. You know, the overall plates have dropped, and they have worked with staff to try to address some of the bulk concerns that we had with the project. Staff had hoped for slightly lower plates, but in regards to the living room and dining room, but after further consideration, we do believe that the garage does kind of minimize that along the left side. And then the use of the siding material and the distance to the adjoining structures and existing vegetation and trees diminishes that bulk on the right side. It's a unique circumstance because it's a hillside development.
Okay, thank you, Sean.
Jude, do you have any questions?
I think they've been answered. Thanks.
Okay. Sean, I just have one relative to the decks. The upper deck, by my calculation, is what, 500 plus square feet and 11, almost 12 feet deep, running the length of the property. Am I correct in reading it that way?
Believe so, yes. And the applicant's also here to talk about the deck, but yes.
Okay, and then the lower one is lesser size, but lesser concern to me because of the trees and whatnot lower down on the hill. So that is my only question, and I'll form it to the applicant. Okay. We'll go ahead and close our comments to staff, and if the applicant is here or the architect, if you'd like to speak, you have 10 minutes.
Hi, my name is Khurram Iqbal. I'm the owner and the applicant of the property. To start, I just want to introduce myself. You know, we are a current resident of Los Altos. We've been living, my family and I have been living in Los Altos for the last 7-8 years. I have 3 little daughters. The older one is 11, then I have an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old. Both the 11-year-old and the 8-year-old goes to Covington. So we live very close to this property. So when this property came in the market, I purchased this property to build a house for myself, so where we can build, raise our family. My mother also, visits us and stay with us. So it's a multi-generational family that's going to be living in this house. So that's just a brief introduction. Then I'd like to talk a little bit about I think Frank was asking about the neighbors. So I personally went and met with 5 of the neighbors, but the most of my meetings were between 901 Madonna Way, which is right next to this property, the right one, and the 897 Madonna Way, which is the property on the left-hand side. And I showed the owners of that property these plans. We discussed, we walked the property and all that. And they provided me in writing a letter of support, both of those neighbors, which are my immediate right and left. So I have a written letter of support that I have submitted to the city, and I believe it's part of the package what the city has, and so that's that. And then the other neighbors I met with 1, 2, 3 other neighbors, and they all like the plans. They don't have any concerns. But because they're Madonna Way it's not a straight street. It just loops around. So so the comment that I got from the neighbors were like more like, hey, we welcome you in the community and this and that. And some of those they have kids that go to Covington as well. So we just talked about that. I showed them the plans, but they were weren't very like, they looked at it and said, look, nice. So it wasn't that they were really concerned. I left an introduction letter way ahead, on when we were designing the house, to get feedback from the neighbors, so that I could be able to get a house there on the property, where if somebody has an issue, will contact me or ask me for plans, meeting or whatnot. I did get email back from 2 of the neighbors. One was 880 Madonna Way, and the other one was 900 Madonna Way. So I was able to meet with 880 Madonna Way. I replied back to their email. I believe the homeowner at 900 Madonna Way also asked me for plans, and I sent them the plans. But I asked them if they want to set up a meeting with me. I haven't heard anything from them. But I tried my best to go around before even we were close to DRC or anything, to have them get some feedback if there's any concerns, so I would know what the concerns are. So those are just to answer the neighbor question. Then I mean, of course, everybody can see that this I mean, the site is a very difficult site. I mean, it's very steep. So our biggest challenge was the placement of the garage. How are we going to make the garage? I mean, I heard that comment about the driveway safety. So if you look at it, the way the driveway is designed, it is steep, but it is not as steep where you can't drive a car or something. So the grade is from on one side about 20%. And then on the right-hand side, it's like 12.7% grade. So it's relatively, I mean, that's in our opinion, the closest, safest driveway we can get on this property. My wife drives the car, I drive the car. For me, it was a major concern, like the driveway. It has to be a usable driveway that we can park our cars inside and should be able to take them out and all that. So that was, so we looked at the previous owner who applied before, their plans, and of course they were asking for 5 variances. The house was very gigantic and have 3 floor levels, and then even the basement under. So we, I mean, then we just didn't even look at that plans. We start from scratch, blank sheet. Actually, I got involved almost a year ago, and actually at that time the city has a planner, Rito. I maybe might be pronouncing his name wrong. So I had a meeting with him, a virtual meeting, and we went over and got some guidelines from him. Then I looked at the property on the left, which is the 897 Madonna Way. So that property there's very similar topography as ours. Actually, that property also has a variance on the height, which was granted to them. They're very high, actually. It's like 40 feet high. on their the house. But we got the inspiration for that driveway to have a driveway because it's been working for him. So I actually met with the owner, and kind of asked him, and even I drove on his driveway to see if it is something that is doable. And he was happy with the driveway. I like the driveway. I thought that was a very good or the solution for such a steep property. So that was our first thing. And then we get all the guidelines from the city about the design guidelines, like, what is it's a sloping lot, it has to step down. And that's what we did. We stepped down the property, even though my neighbors might not have, they all have more traditional homes with 1 and 2nd story. Mine will have a little bit of the stairs, going every few feet, but I respected the guidelines, and I think that improves the neighborhood. And by having the property that is not very bulky. In fact, the newest house that was built, that's also my neighbor, 901 Madonna Way. Their plate heights are like 10 foot and 10 foot. So it's a 2-story home with a 10-foot first floor, 10-foot second floor, and their garage was very tall, was like 13 feet or something. But we stick to the 9-foot plate height in the front. And the reason we have 10 foot in the living room, we step down the living room from the garage. So the garage finished floor is 85, and the finished floor of the living room is 84. So even though the plate height is high, but because the property steps down on the right-hand side, because it's not only steep, it's not only sloping from front to the back, it's also sloping from the left to the right. So we did that. So in fact, it is, if you look at the top plate height, that 9 foot will be pretty much consistent. But even though once you come inside the house, you could see that it has a 10-foot plate height. So we try to address that. And then we also use multiple materials. And, we can do, so we use multiple materials to kind of break the mass, and even stucco reveals and stuff like that to kind of break the property, the massing. Also, like in the front, the elevation, as it was mentioned by the staff, from the street, it's a single-story home. It looks like a single-story home, but in fact, it's so low from the street that if you're standing on Madonna Way, the elevation on the Madonna Way from the middle of the property is 100, and the elevation of my living room is 84. So as I was saying, it's like 16 feet below Madonna Way. So a property which is developed 15 or 16 feet, 14 or 15 feet below, and height of 10 feet, and it's a flat roof, so it's not very high. So even if it's the highest point, because we were struggling with that, we don't want the house to be invisible, right? So if you're driving on Madonna and if something happens, I mean, at least it's a somewhat visible house. So we were trying to get some element in the house that can be visible from the street. So I mean, overall design, we worked almost for a whole year on this. This wasn't an easy, house to design. A lot of challenges, a lot of hardship, a lot of difficulties. Functionality was an issue.
Sir, just to give you a check-in, it's you have about a minute and 21 seconds. You have a total of 10 minutes left, or total. Just
Okay.
so you're fine.
Sure. And then I think one question, I just don't want to, so a change of topic, deck. So we were talking about the deck. As you can see that the properties on the left and the right are not developing any back yard, because this is such a steep lot. I have a 2-year-old. I can't have her go in the back where she can just fall down. I mean, it's not even walkable. I don't basically think it's, so we need some outdoor space for my kids, for us. And then these decks, are there, but they are not, affecting anyone privacy. Or on the left-hand side of the deck, it's an undeveloped property. Right outside of the deck, that part of the property, the 901 Madonna Way don't use. Backside of the deck, it's the church. So that deck itself, you know, in like by itself is not affecting anyone's privacy, but at least giving us some outdoor space that my kids can enjoy while my wife is, and I am like in the kitchen. We can still see them, because we can't keep them in a house, right? I mean, they need some outdoor space, or they need some place to go, and so that was the main purpose. But we try to, make it as
Excuse me, sir, your time's expired unless the chair would like to extend your time. And he,
No, I mean, I'm pretty much done. And if you have any other questions, maybe I might have missed something. I'm there to answer.
Okay, great. We'll go ahead and close off your discussion and
Should I mute
have have commissioners ask you questions. And so, any commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant? Sam?
None.
Okay. Jude?
Yeah, I got a few questions. Some of them are dealing with safety. Just looking at the plans, you have a 13-foot high retaining wall at the driveway at the street side. That's quite a wall. I'm more concerned about safety from somebody on the uphill side. You plan for a railing or something at those areas?
Yes, of course. I mean, we need to put some kind of a guardrail over there so that nobody can fall over. So I'm open for that. I mean, that's a very good suggestion. Never realized that before doing the plans, but I would love to actually, do that.
Okay.
Actually, safety for myself as well. So,
That's great. And I think there's a similar concern about a car. If I owned a home on a steep hillside like that, I'd be concerned about a car coming around the corner and ending up in your living room. So do you have any plans or have you investigated with the city about establishing some bollards or some kind of guardrail or restraint device at the street, maybe something in the right of way that improves your state of mind?
I mean, yeah, of course, if there is something that we can do, I would love to do that. If the city is okay with us, putting something there. As far as the driveway inside the property, I can put some, bollards, right? So that, it can stop the car, but it's definitely something that would worry me. And I would love to have a solution for that. So a guardrail over there is also something, I designed the driveway so it's not steep, so that it's workable. So, I mean, we don't want anybody driving. One good thing about the property is it's a curly, so that's not a through street. But still accidents can happen. And I don't want to be in a situation where a car is, as you were saying, come and it's in my living room because the person got out of control and there's nothing to stop the car. So,
okay, we encourage you to look at these issues.
Yeah,
regarding the retaining wall again at the garage area, you're showing the retaining wall bumping into the sanitary sewer easement. I don't know if that's allowed. You can't build permanent structures over utility easements like you have. Saying that, I think you should press your luck as far as possible to give you additional backup and turnaround, because getting in and out of your garage, not getting in, but getting out of your garage is going to be quite the challenge. So that's one area that you might want to confer with staff and engineering, whether that's going to be allowed.
Sure.
And then my last question or comment to you, and this is a gray area that we're technically not allowed to talk about, but your ADU is 30 feet below driveway level, and you have no indication of steps. On the landscape plan, it just shows pathway with steps. You walk down 30 feet, and then you have to walk back up 10 feet. So whoever's in that ADU is going to be pretty darn fit. So if it's your extended family, Have you thought about how somebody's going to access that? And do you plan on, I think you're allowed to put a door from your main living space into your ADU. So your plan doesn't show that at this point. So can you talk a little bit about that quickly? Just so we're all at some level of comfort?
Sure. I never thought of it, that way, because when we were designing the project, there was a lot of issues, not issues like, challenges when we were, so yes, I mean, I can, but the thing is, I can have a door that I can lock from inside the house, or something that if the ADU is used through the inside of the house, then there's a door. And if it is allowed, I can definitely look into that. Right?
I would suggest you work with staff to put in what's allowable, because just out of practicality, I think that ADU is going to be really inaccessible, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Anything else, Jude?
No, that's it.
Okay, Frank, any questions?
I think he's muted.
Frank? You want to unmute yourself?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's very interesting. On the phone, the unmute button doesn't work with this application. You have to do *6.
Oh.
So just for anyone that's on the phone, that's just a data point. No, I don't have any questions. I think my concerns are along the lines of what both Jude and Sam have discussed, which is the safety concerns that, I just didn't see any of those details in the plans, and certainly would have expected to, given the nature of the project. It's certainly a very challenging lot, but I think safety concerns for guests and young children and older parents. Jude mentioned the steps down to the ADU on the outside. I think those are all details that should be pretty clear in the plans, but I couldn't find them. So those would be my concerns.
Okay. Yeah, my concern actually goes back, I mean, those items as well, but goes to the backyard deck. And I think the applicant kind of answered what my point was, because of the lot and the steepness and lack of outdoor space. That deck is basically going to be the main play area, noise area, light area for that property. I think at 901, you might get some of that. The house on the left, I don't think. But I drove around the neighborhood, went up and down the streets, because, all of that right there is fairly vertical. And there's none of the properties I could see that are relatively new that had such a substantial deck. And I see that as a sort of light privacy sound emission for kind of the neighborhood. So I would like to see the deck, I don't think it needs to be 4, but maybe cut that in half so you have space that you can go outdoors, but that it's not a huge play area, noise area, partying area, that type of thing that will just sort of pronounce it going out through over the church and, throughout the neighborhood. So that's just my comment. Let's go ahead and close the commissioner's comments and open it up.
Michael can't speak, but
Yeah, Michael's verboten.
Yeah.
If we could open up to public comments, I think we may have one, but we may have more. I see there's Polly Siegel has her hand up. So Sean, if you could take over at this point with public comments.
Miss Siegel, if you would like to mute yourself and provide your comments. If you'd like, you can provide your address, but that's optional. You're not required.
I live at 852 Madonna Way. and I've lived here for 28 years. So I'm one of the old timers in the neighborhood now. I just want to say the design looks really nice, way better than the last design. So kudos to that. It is a really challenging lot, and a number of my neighbors couldn't make it. So I'm also speaking on behalf of some of my other neighbors as well, including the neighbor at 900 Madonna. I'm actually not sure she's here. She might be online. But and I never received a notice about the hearing or anything. I mean, I did notice it on the street, but I never received anything. So maybe maybe something happened, because we're at the end of the street. So our house is at the end of the street on the top of the hill facing the bay. And so we had a couple of concerns that we wanted comments on. So one has to do with some of the safety issues, and that was planning for off-street parking. As you noted, Madonna Way is very narrow, and that particular lot is on the very curvy part of the street. And so it's dangerous for cars to park on the street because it becomes even narrower, and it's really hard to safely get up and down the hill. And so the question was how many cars the property would be able to accommodate. And then the other question related to safety was the plan for ingress and egress off of the property, because again, it is on the curvy part of the street, and you know, it's kind of a blind curve. So I actually really like the way that, from what I can tell from the plans here, you know, the way the driveway sloped down and around. So which was a much better design than the previous design, I think. So those were the two sort of questions there. And then we had some concerns around like what's going to happen during construction, which will just be a temporary thing. But again, the same thing. Madonna Way is very narrow, curvy street, and it's dangerous for cars to park there, especially on the curve. And so the question is like, what's going to happen with all the construction vehicles during the construction? Where will they park? Will they be able to park down at the church? Will they be out of the way? Et cetera. And then the other question, one of my neighbors wanted to suggest that, well, once the driveway is built, that contractors always park within the property line, but that's going to be a while before that happens. And she also suggested setting up some kind of reflective mirror to let people know, like, so you could see when cars were coming up and down, if there was construction equipment on the street, and then to coordinate carefully with the neighbors if at any point the street would have to be blocked off for construction, because we have no way out of the neighborhood. And then there was another question, another concern, which is a concern more of the neighbors that are close to the property, which has to do with the noise during the construction, and just a question of how that noise would be remediated. And then there was a concern from 900 Madonna Way, we've talked a lot about 901 and 897, which are the adjacent properties, but 900 looks directly over the property. And so I'll read this from my neighbor. We bought our house primarily for the expansive view back in 2012, despite not having any usable flat land in our yard. We weren't aware that 899 Madonna was a separate lot. And
sorry to interrupt. I'm actually here. So
you're here. All right. So Joyce.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead, Polly, and finish up, because I think you're over our time limit. And then
I'm done. Joyce can talk about her two issues, because that's what I had.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Joyce, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thanks. So I'm Joyce. We live at 900 Madonna Way, across the street, which is kind of right above the new property. So our primary concern is really our view from the house. So we bought the house back in 2012, when the lot isn't even up for sale. So actually, we didn't even know it's a separate lot. For the longest time, it was actually part of the backyard of the previous owner of the property next to it, down below. So this is our current view. I don't know if you can see my screen.
Let me
Um,
turn that off a second.
So this is the current view from our living room. So as you can see, the car in the picture is roughly where, or the white sign is where the new project is going to be. So it's really directly in front of us. So our primary concern is really the height of the new project, such that our view won't be blocked, or at least minimize the blockage. Because we purchased the house primarily for the view, even though we know that there's no backyard of, even though we know there's no flat land for a backyard, and we have a kid too, so we actually make a compromise for the view. Yeah, so that is our primary concern. And then in addition to that, we were hoping that trees can be preserved as much as possible, because I know that the previous owner, which never really built the house, has already chopped down quite a few trees. So if we could maintain at least this big tree, that would be nice. The big tree here. So yeah.
Okay,
That's it.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joyce. John, is there anyone else?
There are no other hands raised. Is there any other member of the public who would like to speak? If so, please raise your hand. And if you'd like, please share your name and address, which is not required. No one is raising their hand. No one is unmuting themselves. It appears we have no other public speakers.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public comment. Open it up for commissioner discussion. Who would like to start?
Well,
Frank,
I'll start.
Go ahead,
and,
Sam.
reiterate what I said earlier, and then Jude brought up the back porch. I used to have little kids and boys, and I'd have about a 10-foot high fence at the back of that deck with balls flying around and so forth. So I'm very concerned about both the front and the back safety issues for that design.
Okay. Frank? Was it *6?
*6, Frank.
Or whatever his secret code for the phone access?
How about now?
Yeah, we
Yes.
can hear you. Thank you, Frank.
This time, *6 didn't work. I had to go back to the screen and hit the unmute button. So I'm a little concerned about how this all works. I've talked about my thoughts already. I would say, on the positive side, a lot of work has been put into this to improve greatly from what we saw some time ago, our last application. It is a very tough lot. I think they've done a much better job fitting the house into the lot. One of the members of the public brought up a couple of points I brought up last time, but I'll just say it again from the commission side, which is it's very difficult to do construction in a constrained place like that, trucks in and out. By the looks of that hillside, there's caissons that need to be put in to actually support the house. Yes, there'll be noise, and yes, there'll be big vehicles that will be there to actually do the work to carve out that hill and be able to put the concrete supports in to actually build a house. That's all reality that will actually take place. And it is a very narrow street. It's not my business how it will all be done, but it's certainly a concern for a small neighborhood. And then I'll come back and I'll conclude on my points that Sam and Jude and I brought up also a little bit earlier, which is safety, children, and elderly members of the family trying to navigate the property up and down the hillside, just to make sure that when the city works with the applicant, that all of those items get addressed thoroughly, and that we build a property on the hillside that's safe for everyone, neighbors, family, children, elders, to all enjoy. And I don't think the project is quite there yet with the plans that I've looked through, because I did not see the details that I would have expected.
Great. Thank you, Frank. Jude?
Sure. Well, once again, I'll start on the positive. First of all, I'm in support of the variance request. I think the project, the site is clearly challenging and it's unique for what we see. And I think we can make conditions, findings and conditions to granting the variance for the daylight plane exception. So today I would vote affirmative on that motion. Regarding design review, I have many concerns. I've already expressed them. I think we need to see further information on safety, driveway, deck. I'm a little concerned that if I'm building a family home, there's absolutely no way for my family to go from inside the house to the yard. I know it's a steep hillside, but I would attempt to create some kind of a usable yard space. And maybe that's part of your landscape plan, because your landscape plan doesn't show any development other than what's in the front yard. So I would like to see, 1, steps to my ADU, 2, maybe some kind of connection from the upper deck to the yard. You might want to rethink how the stairs are going to work. I'm less concerned about the size of the deck, given the situation. So I think we are within our right to look beyond the design guidelines for size of deck due to the site conditions. But once again, this is a house for your family and other generations. So maybe some more thought can be put into that. So we're not here to block you. We're here to kind of encourage you to continue to think about some of these issues that we've raised. And I personally would like to see you come back and talk about that retaining wall with the 14-foot drop, talk about the sewer easement, hey, can we build over this? Can we build more? What are we going to do at the streets? I just on a side note, Joyce, you bought your house from my friends. I've been in your house, and I think this new home is going to be well below street level. So just to reassure you, I think it would be nice if the applicant provided a drawing of some sort to show your sight lines. So to let you know your view is not going to be blocked. But given what I see on the plans, I think you can be comfortable that that view is not going to be blocked. Now, the plans show 2 trees coming out at the front to get these retaining walls in. So your request to preserve those trees may not be met. So I think there needs to be further discussion between you and the applicant. And I think the applicant should reach out to you and talk this through a little bit more. So anyhow, in general, I am in favor of the design of the house. I just think we need more detail shown on the plans and more thought put in on some of these issues.
Great, thank you, Jude. Yeah, I overall support the project in the extent that I think it's a nice design. I do think it needs further tweaks. I would like to see some work done on the deck. I do concur with Jude in regards to the variance. I think that makes sense. The only additional thing I could think of, and I'm just sort of shooting from the hip, is, because it is a family home, because you have small children, I don't know if there's a way to work with the church or something to maybe incorporate a stairway going down so you can go down and play in their church facility, play area or whatever, as an access point for the kids to play versus having them up on a deck with a 3-foot tall railing that any child about 5 or 6 can just hop over, and then it's a 20-25 foot drop. So again, I don't know if that's even possible, but given the reasons why you're building there and who it's for, it might be, I don't know if you get an easement or whatever, it might be something just to take a quick look into. But I would vote to continue the project to get some more clarity. Jude.
Just a question for Sean. given the challenges of the street and the logistics of construction, per Frank's comment, there's going to be concrete pours, cranes. It's going to be a mess when this home's built. I mean, can you just elaborate a little bit about what the building department's going to require? And is there a possibility to have some kind of notification where the applicant, has some open channel to let people know what's going to happen on what day?
I mean, it's uncommon because it's usually multifamily commercial, but you could you could condition or request the applicant come back with a construction management plan. We do have a template for commercial multifamily projects, which probably would work really well for this development. It does provide information, requires a sign to be posted at the site that gives the name and number of the construction manager. It reflects times of construction. It addresses issues of noise that may occur at the site due to excavation or other stages of the development. And it requires developers typically to contact surrounding properties during when that's going to occur and when it'll end. So I would recommend, if you would like, that be added to direction. In regards to your final direction, since you have so many comments, I have written, I believe, all of them down. You can make in a simpler motion, you can make a motion requesting staff work with the applicant to address the comments made by the commissioner. So it's more broad because I do have them all written down and I do have a recording, so I can always go back to the recording for you.
And
Unless
then
you-
Does the construction management plan include a parking plan?
It does include a parking plan for employees. Based on the comments from the public, it may be a good idea that we have clarity where employees or construction workers will be parking. And it may require them to maybe work with the church to potentially park, pay and park some of their vehicles there and then move the employees up to the site. It happens mostly in commercial developments, but in this constrained development, it may be a good idea, I think, for the site. I'm sorry, staff didn't recommend that earlier. Apologize.
Okay. Okay, do we have a motion or, well, first off, any further comments by any of the commissioners? I think we pretty much gone through everything. Do I have a motion?
Can I make a motion?
Sure, go ahead.
And it'll be a two-part motion. Can I move that we approve V22-0001, the request for daylight plane exception at 899 Madonna Way for the staff report?
So to the chair, so the variance is in effect tied to the design review application. So if you're going to have them come back for the design review element, then the variance should come back and then it would be one action at that meeting.
Okay, so we're meeting of the mind to the variance is likely to be approved. So the main discussion topic is in regards to the actual design review of the project.
Yeah, it would be likely a motion to continue the item based on either specific direction or reference to the comments that have been made at the meeting, which staff's noted, or whatever you'd like. But it would be a motion to continue the item inclusive of the variance, even though we know you're in support.
Okay.
On
Jude, do you
that
want to
note, Chair,
rephrase?
yeah, Chair, I withdraw my motion. I will make a new motion.
Okay,
I move that we continue item number 2, SC 21-0051, including variance V22-0001 for, I don't know, if ADU 21-0090 for 899 Madonna Way for the following direction, I guess. And the direction being that the applicant come back with further detail in the plan addressing site retaining walls, safety concerns at the retaining walls and at the seat or the street. Further development in the landscape plan showing walkways, steps to the ADU. Further detailing in the decks both decks, the upper deck and the lower deck. And also addressing how the retaining wall is going to work in the easement area, specifically the sewer easement, and we'll back up and turn around, work effectively there.
Second,
We have a first and a second. We'll go ahead and vote on it. Frank,
Aye.
Sam,
aye.
Jude,
Aye.
David, I as well. So we are continuing this project to a date in the future.
Aye.
And a quick question for staff, will you be requesting the construction management plan as part of one of the new conditions?
Yes, I will ask for a construction management plan.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Why don't we, is there a way to get Michael back?
I'm back.
Okay, so we'll move on to item number 3, which is SC 22-0009. Property at 629 Benvenue Avenue. Could we have a staff report, please?
Good evening. I'll be presenting item 3. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Great, thank you, Naz.
Okay. So this application is a design review application for 629 Benvenue Avenue, where a new 3,564 square foot 2-story home is proposed. The subject property is located on an interior lot on Benvenue Avenue. And the new home was previously considered at the June 1st DRC meeting. At this meeting, the project was continued with directions to confirm the garage door height, which is 7 feet at the sides and at the top of the arch, 8.5 feet tall. Confirm neighbor preferences for obscure or clear glass at the 2nd-story side windows. And one side was changed to clear glass. One side is being kept obscure glass, and that's according to the particular neighbor's preferences. So next was consider changes to the front entry design. So minimize that. This was the original design presented at the previous meeting. And with the revised design, the front porch was extended out, so it's now in front of the adjacent building wall here. So next was provide additional information on the exterior materials. And so an updated material board was provided, and some additional architectural details were incorporated into the plans. Next was consider removing tree number 22. That was a smaller oak tree, and the owners indicated that they would like to retain the tree, and that is per the arborist response, which was provided in the response letter. And then finally was to reconsider the roof tile color, and it's being proposed with a darker tan color. So with that, staff recommends approving the design review application subject to the findings and conditions. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Naz. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
None.
No question.
Maybe this is a question for the applicant, but I thought our direction on the roof tile color was we didn't want a monochromatic tile. We wanted something a little with more variation, just to avoid the, kind of the consistent color there. What was the discussion on that, if any?
Well, what I recall from the meeting was, yes, looking for something with more variation and more of an earth tone. But I believe the applicant is here and possibly the owner, and maybe they can comment on their selection of the color that they're proposing now.
Okay, I'll ask them then. Thank you.
Frank, any questions?
No questions other than I would say thank you to everyone that took the time to make the changes that we discussed. And I think it was a nice project before. I think it's even better at this point. So thank you very much for that.
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and move to the applicant if you want to have any further or you want to present any changes that you've made?
Sure. Yeah. I would like to share my screen, if it's possible. Okay, got it. Okay, so good evening, commissioners. My name is Kyle Chen, architects and the applicants of the project, and we met 2 weeks ago regarding the subject project. So my presentation is very short. It just focused primarily on the changes from the last meeting. From the front, the main house is the porch that is brought up to the front, and I have a discussion with the homeowner, and we agreed to do that so as to provide a more symmetrical look. And we double checked the garage that the minimum height on the sides are 7 feet, and then the highest point is 8.5 feet. And we actually update the chimneys from one of the commissioners' comments. And then we also introduced 2 skylights to the foyer so we can have daylight to the interiors of space. And then the porch are open on the south and the west side to have enough daylight as well. So this is the image that we propose, including some of the details such as the recessed windows and the cobble and the eave details. And we like this traditional looks with more organic shapes. Especially for the windows that we propose in, we want to have an exposed header and sill similar to this example picture. But on the side, we have the recessed stucco, which is a very traditional design for Mediterranean house. And that's about it. That's my presentation. Just to respond to the comment regarding the tile, I did talk to the homeowner, and they highly want to have the single color. But if you see that in the material board, I was able to tell them that we changed to a more tan tone color with more natural variation within the same tone. They just do not want to have different miscellaneous different color mixed together. They just want that one single color, but we will choose to have a more natural shade so that it won't be as fake. But that is what they would like to do. So and that's it. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Why don't we, Commissioner Kirk, I'm sure you have some questions. We'll open up to Commissioner.
I just find
You
it
go
curious.
first.
My question to Kyle is, I just find it curious. Your inspiration image showed a multicolored roof.
Yes.
Right. And to quite honestly, what we don't want is we don't want a shiny monochromatic roof.
Sure.
It just looks terrible.
Let me see. So I did a project in Palo Alto, and we used a single color, and it actually looks nice. But they like that inspiration picture, except the roof. they just don't want to have different colors on the roof. So
got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it'd be great if you showed us your project with the monochromatic roof. That would have been awesome. So I'll trust you on this one.
Any other questions, Jude?
No.
Anyone else have questions?
None.
No question.
Okay,
No questions.
all right. And I just have one, they still want to keep the tree, it appears.
Yes, we discussed that too. We did talk to our arborist and he said there's no issue. But for the homeowner specifically, they just enjoy this lines of trees at the back and that, fill up the voice for any kinds of visual connection with our backyard neighbor who actually have a chance to see our client's backyard. So that's why they want to keep the tree. Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and close commissioner comments. Nas, do we have any public comments on this item that you're aware of?
Besides the correspondence that was requested from those two side neighbors, there's been no comments from the public.
But there's anyone here wanting to make comments?
I do not see anyone with a raised hand.
If there is any member of the public who would like to speak, who has not raised their hand, if you could please raise your hand. If you would like to just unmute yourself, you may unmute yourself and provide your name and address, which is an option. To the chair, there does not appear to be anybody who's either unmuted or raised their hand. So it appears no public comment.
We'll go ahead and close that and have our discussion. Any comments or recommendations? Or Sam, how do you feel on the project?
Yeah, I like what they did and I'm in favor.
Okay, Frank?
Yes, I was okay last time around. Like I said, I think this is an improvement from the front view of the home. And I think they'll enjoy the changes that were recommended. So I'm in favor still of the project.
Okay, thank you. Jude?
Yeah, once again, I appreciate the changes that were made. I'm going to agree to disagree on the roof tile. I'm just a little on the window issue. I see one wants clear glass and wants obscure. It would have been great for consistency. And once again, I think it would have been best to start with clear glass and then gone from there. But now we're going to have a mixed look, but I don't think it's going to affect anybody. So overall, I'm in support of the project and I appreciate the effort that Kyle and the homeowner made to listen to our suggestions.
And Michael?
Yeah, same here. Just like a lot of commissioner, it's certainly a lot of improvements from last time. From the porch design and the material and the detail on the window and the cobble and the eaves. Yeah, the roof tile. It's just if it's bland, it doesn't need to be a lot of mixture, but it's gonna be more nature. Instead of a monotone roof tile. So, but that's the only thing. If the owner insists on having that one, I'll just encourage that to look into more darker blend. The color are closer, but at least gonna look more nature than artificial. So, but overall, I'm in favor of this project. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's an improvement. Not a huge fan of the roof, but they're happy with it. And I think, frankly, the biggest issue for me is the windows. It's going to be kind of odd looking, but since, as Jude stated, it, they're comfortable with it, then let it be. So do we have a recommendation, I'm
Motion.
tongue-tied here, guys. A motion.
Motion.
There we go. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion
Okay, go ahead.
to approve SC 22-0009 629 Benvenue Avenue as stated.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. Jude,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
and myself as I as well. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you to the applicant and the architect for making the modifications, and good luck. We'll go ahead and move now to item 4, SC 22-002, the property located at 632 Leaf Court. And it looks like Naz, if you could give us a staff report, please.
Thank you. So yes, I will be presenting item 4 as well. And I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so 632 Leaf Court is a design review application for a new 3,878 square foot 2-story home. The subject property is located at the corner of Leaf Court and 12 Acres Drive. And here we have a rendering of the proposed home from both the front, which is on 12 Acres Drive, and the side. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the front, facing Leaf Court, and then the side facing 12 Acres Drive. And then we have the surrounding homes, which primarily consist of 1-story ranch homes, but 2-story homes are located directly to the west, and that's this one here. Across Leaf Court, which is this one. It has a second floor that's somewhat visible from this picture. And then a 2-story building across 12 Acres Drive, which is this one here. This slide includes the proposed site plan and zoning table from the staff report. So Leaf Court is considered the front in terms of setbacks, although the actual front door is located facing 12 Acres Drive, which is the exterior side. The gray shaded portion is the first floor building footprint. The hatched area is the basement, and there's 3 light wells. And then the darker shaded area is the proposed second floor, which includes a balcony here facing Leaf Court. The proposal meets or exceeds the required setbacks for the R110 zoning district. And there are 3 protected trees. 2 are located in the right of way, and then 1 is on private property, and these will all be preserved. The materials include composition roofing, fiber cement, horizontal siding, and white painted wood window trim and garage doors. So here we have the elevations, and the overall footprint of the second floor is relatively small and set back considerably from the first floor, and that works to minimize the appearance of bulk. However, the DRC may want to discuss whether the proposed plate heights are compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The plans propose plate heights of 9 to 10 feet for the first floor, and 9 to 9 inches for the second floor. The proposed garage utilizes some of the methods from the design guidelines to reduce its prominence. Though the DRC may want to discuss additional ways like sending it back from the front or lowering the plate height. And as far as privacy impacts, a balcony is proposed facing Leaf Court, which is up here, and it provides very limited views of neighboring yards. The second floor bedroom window that faces the side neighbor, it's this one here, and that's 4 feet 6 inches above the finished floor. And this larger window here is 6 feet above the stair landing. Larger egress windows would face the rear yard, and as conditioned, there'd be screen plantings that would obscure views along the rear and side property lines. And here we have the landscape plan, which shows some new trees, shrubs, ground cover, and lawn area. So again, the 3 large trees along the front and at the corner, these will remain. These plants here along the rear property line are screen trees, and the recommended condition is to include screen trees in this area too. These are some lower shrubs, and then that would provide some more privacy and obscure views from the 2nd-story windows that are here. So with that, staff recommends that the DRC approve the design review application subject to the findings and conditions in the report. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Naz. Questions for staff? Do we have any? Michael, why don't we
None.
start with you? If
I
you
mean,
have some.
yeah, I'm looking at I just have a quick question. I mean, it may be in the staff report, I may see it, but is there any is there an arborist report on the staff about the trees at the front? Let me see. That 60-inch oak and 27-inch oak, because they are getting kind of close to the basement wall.
So there was no arborist report. We typically require it when there's construction proposed that falls within the inner 2/3 of the tree's drip line. But due to the basement, one of the recommended conditions is to get a shoring plan. And then based on that, it might need to involve an arborist at that point to make sure that there's no impacts, especially on that that oak tree that's it's on the leaf court side in the public right of way.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ness.
Anything else, Michael?
No, that'll be all.
Okay. Sam, do you have anything?
No, I do not.
Jude?
Yeah, quick question, Naz, on A3.2. Looks like Walter has made a revision in the back patio area because it's highlighted in red. What was the city comment there?
Let me pull up. Okay, A 3.2.
Yeah, so he's got something bubbled and it says city plan check comment or
Comments.
Yeah, so I believe there was a portion that extended between the 2 ends of like where those columns are. So it kind of closed that area off, which then when we measure lot coverage, it's measured to support structures. So that whole area, even though there was kind of a cutout in the middle, it was counted towards the lot coverage. And then if I recall, that kind of pushed them over the lot coverage.
was it a covered
allowable.
roof? Was it a covered roof?
Partially around the edges it was,
Got
but
it.
we would measure out to those columns. So it wouldn't recognize that there's a space in the middle open to the sky.
So
So
Jude,
if it was an arbor or a trellis, would it trigger that concern about coverage?
Yes, whether it's 50% open or fully solid, it counts towards lot coverage.
Okay. I'll ask Walter about that. Thanks.
Frank, any questions?
I do, and maybe the city can refresh my memory on this. So it's corner lot and design guidelines. Are we supposed to have the garage on the front or the side street? And I bring this up as a question because we had some issues from some of the neighbors about this wide driveway, which I'll talk about later, but the 3-car garage. Do we have this situated properly on the lot according to the guidelines with the direction that the garage is pointing currently?
So yeah, the plans do propose to locate the garage from where it's currently on the exterior side, and then it would go to the front. I'm not aware of any provisions that would prohibit that, but the design guidelines do speak to ways to minimize the prominence of a garage, in particular,
Right.
a 3-car garage.
Right. So one way maybe to do that is not to have it on the front, but maybe have it on the side. But I just ask it as a question, and I'm sure we'll get into it in greater detail. But I'm just wondering, other than just what's recommended in the guidelines for good design, just so we're all on the same page before we get too far into this, that was all.
Any other questions, Frank?
Well, yeah, I guess I'll go for one more while I'm here, which has to do with the width of the driveway. So again, I'm not sure what the rule is in Los Altos, but does the driveway need to be this full width that they have here with all of these, blocks in the driveway, or could it be narrower? The way I did my house is I've got same thing. You'd have three bays basically, but I only have the driveway for 2, and then I open up into the 3rd once I come onto the property. So it minimizes the amount of stonework actually that's out at the street. Any thoughts on that from the city? Question, I guess. How do we normally do a driveway when we have a 3-car garage of this width?
So from a code perspective, there is a limitation for front yard paving of 50% of the front yard area, and they are just under that at 49, somewhere around 49%. And there aren't any code provisions that require a certain width or a certain distance from the side property line. That said, the design guidelines do touch on the amount of front yard paving, but the focus is more on circular driveways, and then talks about incorporating other kinds of pavement materials besides concrete to kind of add some texture or interest, I suppose. Yeah, that's all I am aware of with regards to driveways.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and I have similar questions, but I think I'd like to hear from from Walter first. So why don't we go ahead and close our discussion, and Walter and or the applicant, if you'd like to have your time to present, you have a total of 10 minutes.
Very good. I'm Walter Chapman, the designer and applicant for the Mohicas. Want to thank staff for basically, I don't need to describe the project. I think staff already has given you a good rundown on the placement of the house and how it complies with all the setbacks. We comply with the height, the floor area rules, all the zoning rules are met here. And to address Frank's concern, about the driveway, you're allowed to cover 50% of your front yard with hardscape. And that's very common in Los Altos, that you do have your driveway as wide as your 3-car vehicle space to make it easier to get your cars off the street and into the garage. I did ask Naz, I sent her a very short PowerPoint. If you could pull that up for me, Naz. And what we have in this, first off, is a picture of a 3-car garage that you'll be seeing in a moment. This was built about 1.5 years ago, and this project went through the DRC. And it has also the orientation of its garage facing the front of the property as opposed to the side yard. So if you could enlarge the first slide so everyone can see it. Second slide, I'm sorry, there you go. So this is a 2-car garage at a 25-foot setback. And to the right of it, set back several feet, is the 3rd-car garage bay. And as you can see, the driveway is the full width of the 3 vehicles. This is, like I say, fairly common in Los Altos, that as long as you're not exceeding the 50% front yard coverage, actually having easier access to the garage is a better way of getting your vehicles off the street. The other thing we've done on this particular garage, it has a gable as opposed to a hip roof. So on the design we have proposed, it has a hip roof instead of a gable, which helps to soften the mass. And we're going to propose a similar trellis be added to the garage to help soften the physical appearance of the wall above the garage. One of the things that staff has brought up was the height of the garage, as well as the height of the plates of the building itself. And the homeowner is more than willing to accept dropping the plate height of the main floor down from 10 to 9.6, which would also bring the garage plate height on our project down 6 inches as well. And the second story, we're looking at dropping at from 9 to 8.5 feet. Now that has nothing to do with the discussion of the garage, but I did want, other than the overall plate height of the proposed garage. Naz, the next slide shows the aerial map of the neighborhood. And what you can see, all of the garages have been indicated in this neighborhood. All of them are basically at the 25-foot setback and are quite prominent throughout the neighborhood. Most of the homes, the garages actually sit forward of the primary residences. So the way we've designed this garage is to tuck it in and behind the house, where you actually don't see the garage until you get onto Leaf Court. And by setting it back as we did, you can see how the garage pattern on Leaf Court, the garages that are set back into that area, some of them also are at the 25, close to the 25-foot setback. So what we're looking at here is our garage pattern, its location relative to the street, is consistent with the development pattern of the neighborhood. And in the garage actually on the proposed home is going to be less visible than most of the names in the homes in the neighborhood, because those garages are actually projected forward of the house. So I really don't think the garage has any more prominence, or actually has less prominence than the homes in the neighborhood. And flipping back to the previous slide, you see then an example of how this looks with the 2nd-story house setback further from the front plane of the garage. So we're going to have a similar feel by the time the house is built, is it will have a garage that's set forward, a garage that's set back. We'll have an upper floor that's set back. All of this is facing the front setback as opposed to the side yard. The other thing I wanted to address briefly moving forward in the slide, a couple of slides to the landscape plan, was the issue about privacy for the neighbors. So we've taken 3 pictures from the roof of the existing residence. So if you could go slowly through the next 3 slides, you can see that there is a fence with a trellis, and you can barely at this point see the top of the window trim over the lattice. The landscape screening that has been proposed and shown in the landscape plan will result in an 8 to 10 foot high hedge. So it'll be taller than that current fence, which will provide the screening we need. I think there's 2 more pictures. So again, that is a side of the neighbor's garage. And so with the hedge that's proposed and the distance that the egress windows are from that rear property line, there really is not a privacy issue. And the neighbor next door has seen the plans and is comfortable with the proposed landscape screening. The last thing I'd like to do before I run out of time is to go back to the floor plan, if you would please, from the, which I believe it is sheet A31. There we go. So in answer to Jude's question that's going to be coming up regarding the trellis, we originally did have a cross structure between the 2 columns because we wanted to imply an enclosed patio, but we didn't want a roof on it, because you can see from this floor plan, if that patio had a solid roof, it would cut off light to the family room and the breakfast nook. So what we wanted to do with the columns out there was to imply a patio room, but we didn't want to enclose it because we didn't want to make the rooms dark. What we've done is we've removed the cross member between the columns, but we are retaining the overhang on 3 sides. This is to protect a countertop of a pass-through window from the nook. So by having that flat roof overhang that wraps around the patio, we can protect the countertop from the weather on one side, and we protect the fireplace wall on the other, because there'll be an outside television on that wall. So by having this wraparound overhang and the columns on the end, we're able to give some shelter for the patio without eliminating light into the internal rooms. So we removed the cross member because it did add to coverage, and actually it works well in this iteration. And I don't think I have any other comments pertaining to the design except for to answer questions. And if you have any questions of the owners, they're available to step in as well.
Great, thank you. Walter, did the owners want to say anything, or?
I think they would like to reserve the right to talk after public comment. If there's any concerns that are brought up, they would like to be able to be available to address those.
Okay. All righty. Let's go ahead and commissioners, do we have questions for the architect?
Well, I've got a question. So Walter, the back patio is facing due south.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to roast in that back patio. So would not, and even regardless, would not an open to the air arbor give them light and sun protection at the same time?
It would be desirable, but it would put us over our coverage. What the owner has currently, they have a similar patio today, and they use umbrellas and other structures to help block the sun when they want to. But with the design as it's currently set, our options, that's the only option that remains to them.
Okay. All right. Second question, and don't hold on to your hats. Did you consider a balcony on the back side of the house instead of on the Leaf Court side?
Well, the Leaf Court side is done for a different reason than wanting a balcony. One of the concerns, we didn't put a balcony on the back side because several reasons. One is it would be putting upstairs bedrooms closer to the rear neighbors, where there could be a privacy concern more from bedrooms if there was a balcony. Also, if we put a balcony out that, it would add to coverage over the patio. So the reason we put the balcony on the front side, interestingly enough, by putting a balcony on the front side, we can get bigger windows on the front to let more light down the stairwell. Otherwise, the roof line would have crossed across the windows and we would have had to elevate the windows higher and get less light into the stairwell and the interior of the house. So by having a balcony, we can put larger windows because it holds the roof line away from the windows.
Will the balcony ever be used?
Its main use is to provide a light well because it's off of a stairwell. It's not going to be a high use function. It's done to create basically a light well for the stairs and the upstairs sitting area off the bedrooms. It also adds a little bit of architectural element to the front of the house. So it's less of just a box on top of a box.
Okay, thank you.
Michael, any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Back to the driveway. My first question is, what's the width of the driveway at the curb cut? And my second question, similar to the one to the staff, because the driveway, it's right now proposed between the two trees, and then the large tree that at 60-inch oak, it's on the left-hand side. So have you guys looked into or talking to an arborist before about the driveway?
The property owner has basically an arborist on retainer who maintains those two oak trees on a regular basis. The arborist was going to provide us a letter for tonight, but timing just didn't work out well for us to get a letter. We will have an arborist report, but we spoke with the arborist before we proceeded with the design. He's been maintaining these trees for, you'd have to ask the owner how many years. So we have him on board for during construction. We will get an actual report from him for the city should you request. The driveway, leading back to one of Commissioner Bishop's earlier questions, we actually don't have the driveway the same width as the 3-car garage. If you look at the site plan sheet A1, if Naz, if you could pull that up. You will see that the driveway is actually narrower because we have two trees we were concerned about. There's a magnolia tree and the oak tree. So you can see we shaped the driveway on both sides to narrow it up. So when you drive into the garage, you actually have to swerve around up the driveway, as Frank was describing earlier, to get into one of the garage bays, which leads at a more direct path for the other two. So we will have the arborist on retainer on site when any grading work is done, not only to look at the impact from the basement, but also any impact from the driveway. So that is clearly our intent, and we can get one prepared in time over the next couple of weeks if staff feels they need that report before we proceed.
So what's the width of the proposed driveway at the curb?
Well, let me grab my scale. Oh, there it is. Nice thing about working at my drafting table. That driveway is 30 feet wide.
At the curb cut?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, thanks, Walter.
33, Naz. She just checked it.
All right, thank you.
Sam, any questions?
No questions.
Yeah, Walter, my only question is, I mean, you show the property on Covington with the pavers. What is the driveway, it's impervious, but what is it? Stamped? Is it solid cement? Is it pavers? What's the actual?
Well, we showed as impervious. Now, the impervious pavers, there's various types of product. There are those that are designed for more water to go through them, but you still need a certain amount of compacted base under the pavers to keep them stable. So most what they call impervious pavers maybe get you about 30% pervious capability. They don't really get you 50% pervious. They get you some other proportion based on the product itself. The percentage varies. So depending on the arborist's recommendations, we will certainly go with a paver that he feels will work best to maintain the the health of the root system of the tree. So we can get a recommendation from the arborist what products he feels are the best ones to use for this condition.
Okay, thank you. I think that's everyone. So why don't we go ahead and close off that portion? Naz, do we have any public comment, or Sean, any public comment on this item?
There is a raised hand. I see the Becksteads.
It looks like 2 raised hands, at least on mine. Now we're up to 3. Do I hear 4? 4 going once, 4. Do I hear 4? Nope, looks like 3. So we will go through each of you. You each have a maximum of 3 minutes. And Naz, I'll let you pick whoever you get control on this one.
I saw the Becksteads plural with his hand raised first. So if you want to go ahead.
I'm Mark Beckstead. I've been a resident on Leaf Court for the last 30 years. We're actually been on Leaf Court longer than anyone else on Leaf Court. And my comments have to do with the effect of this proposed project on Leaf Court. Regarding Mr. Chapman's plans regarding precedent on Leaf Court as it relates to driveways, there are no 3-car garages on Leaf Court, and there are no corner lots on Leaf Court with driveways on Leaf Court. Our property is a corner lot, and it mirrors the applicant's property on the other side of the street. Both of our homes were designed so that the driveways were not on Leaf Court. Leaf Court is a narrow cul-de-sac with 6 homes. Our concern is that putting a 3-car garage plus additional space in that driveway to allow for an auto trailer makes Leaf Court a difficult access situation for egress and in and out access with cars and trailering. The current parking lot for that property is on 12 acres, which is a wider street with much easier in and out access. The applicant has an auto trailer that is used with race cars. I view that as being difficult to manage on Leaf Court. Also on Leaf Court, traditionally, the front yard setbacks have been landscaped and they're spotted with heritage oaks. The largest one is on the property that's in question here. And I'm shocked, actually, that the commissioners don't have in front of them for this meeting a detailed report from an arborist regarding the impact on that tree. Harm or loss of that tree would grossly affect the appearance of Leaf Court and the park-like setting that we've enjoyed for all of these years. Of sort of a minor issue, I'd like to point out that the 3D rendering facing Leaf Court is not consistent with the site plan as to how many pavers or how much area is paved. The site plan shows those pavers going all the way to the property line towards the magnolia tree, and the 3D rendering shows that area as landscape. That doesn't matter to me that much because I'd rather put the garage and the driveway on 12 acres where it is currently. I think that's the appropriate place for it. But I am interested to know if it still falls within the 50% rule if you include what is shown on the site plan as opposed to the 3D rendering plan. Those are my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Now is our next.
The next hand I saw is Kevin.
Okay, Kevin, you're up.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kevin Vanderbeek. I'm at 636 Leaf Court. I am the neighbor directly next to the Mohicas. So I would be next to their proposed garage. We've been here for 9 years, and we paid quite a premium to get into this amazing court here in Los Altos. And we love our neighborhood. We love all of our neighbors. And to me, the premium of getting into the court is for the neighborhood feel and the friendly nature of our court. And we are friends with pretty much everybody in our court and close friends, and we get together all the time. And the thought of them moving their garage onto the court is very welcomed by most of us. Any opportunity to see them more and get together more is very welcomed. And I'm sure any future resident of this home or any home would hopefully feel that same way. The issue was brought up of 2 windows on their second story facing our house. And we certainly do not object to that if they would like to stare at some of our solar panels. The setback is far enough that they won't shade them, so have at it. Yeah, other than that, we welcome the plans and we would love to have them around more often. As is what stated, Fernando does have a race car and trailer, and he's working on that quite often, and we welcome that in the safety of our court. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Naz, we have, I think, one more.
I'm gonna mute.
Hi. Are you muted? My name is Kevin Beckstead.
Okay, if we could just stop, we're getting feedback from you guys. So I don't know.
Yes, close. Is the problem over now?
Yes,
Okay,
go ahead.
gotta turn off the whole thing.
Now we're getting echoes.
So that's awful.
Okay, try that again.
Is it better now?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay. So I have lived here across the street from the Mohicas house for almost 30 years. And when I looked at their the drafting of having the 3-car garage moved over to Leaf Court, I couldn't help but start, singing the Joni Mitchell song. They paved paradise and they put up a parking lot, because although the garage is only a 3-car garage, the width of the driveway is even wider than a 3-car garage. Even though you've got the little cutouts in the corner, the amount of pavers that's going to cover the front yard that is now currently like grass and oak trees is going to be substantial. So I am so worried about the way it's going to look. And I'm so worried about the heritage oaks trees. I always tell people when they come into Leaf Court and they talk about these beautiful California heritage oaks. And I always have said, since we bought the house, that I'm just praying that, during our term here on Leaf Court, that I don't do anything that screws up the oak trees. And so I appreciate Commissioner Ma's concern. And I really am worried that something's going to happen when they're digging that basement, that something's going to happen to take out those heritage oak trees. The last comment I want to make is about that neighborhood context diagram that was shown. It's not to scale. I mean, 12 acres is definitely wider than Leaf Court. It's much easier to move a car with a trailer on it into 12 acres than it would be to Leaf Court. And we actually have a brick mailbox that is right across the street from this three-car plus driveway that they're going to be moving cars and trailers out of. And so the aesthetics worries me, and also the operation of getting those cars in and out. And our other neighbor, Kevin, who we love, also is into race cars. And so we've had a lot of things parked out in front of the Mujica's house, in front of our house, including like a big car trailer, you know, where you drive the car up and put it in to there. And sometimes they're up late at night, loading that thing and unloading that thing. And so although I want to be supportive of everything they want, I can't be on board with putting the three-car driveway across from our house. Time's up.
Great, thank you. And now there's no one else out there?
We have Amy Lynch.
Okay. Amy, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
I'm sorry, had trouble unmuting. Yes, so we are the neighbors that are next to the Mujica's on 12 acres. And the pictures that the architect had looking down at our house into our garage and laundry room, you know, that's totally fine. We don't even need any trees there because they're not going to, you know, we have the privacy. And I just want to say, I absolutely love the house design. I think it looks beautiful. I think it's going to add a lot of value to the neighborhood. And, you know, I have trouble understanding the objection to it, but I just wanted to put our point of view out there. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Now, is anyone else that's joined in?
Gail, do you and Fernando want to chip in right now while you have a chance?
Yeah, yes, is this the appropriate time for y'all?
It's a little out, but yeah, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
We can wait for the appropriate time. Sorry.
Well, the appropriate time actually was when your architect was talking.
Well, actually, Chair, you're allowed to have a 3-minute rebuttal after a open public venue. I've been doing this in Los Altos for 30 years.
Correct, Walter, and I just gave her 3 minutes.
But I'm going to say it is the appropriate time. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
So to the chair, so traditionally, the normal process for a meeting is of course staff speaking or presentation, applicant presentation, public comments, and then typically based on council direction, it's usually a 5-minute rebuttal for comments from the public. It doesn't mean that there's a rebuttal for the public to respond. It's just only for the applicant to rebut any of the public comments. It can be whatever length of time. It's usually 5 minutes, but if you want to make it 3 or whatever, it's your prerogative.
Okay, so feel free. You have 3 minutes.
Okay.
To make your rebuttal to prior comments by the public.
And Chair Blockus, I apologize if I came on a little strong.
No worries.
It's Walter.
It's Walter.
We love him.
Okay, go ahead. The clock is running.
Okay. Hi. My name is Gail Mujica. This is my husband, Fernando. We have lived on our home in Leaf Court for 8 years now, and absolutely love it. We purchased everybody's talking about the trees. I'm a Louisiana girl. We purchased the house mostly because of the trees. And we, as Walter noted, we have an arborist who has worked with us for years. We spend a lot of money keeping those trees up, thousands and thousands of dollars pretty much every year, making sure those trees are maintained and well cared for. The arborist has committed that he doesn't see any issues. He will be on site as we are excavating, and we can work with him to provide another plan when needed for building permits and whatever else. We have always tried to be good neighbors. We've made wonderful friends in this area. And one of the things that we actually feel like our house is doing is being a good it is in the context of being good neighbors, is moving the driveway and the garage. Right now, our driveway is on 12 acres, and it is like a massive slab of concrete. It is a parking lot size. We have a 2-car garage right now. The driveway is at least the width of a 4-car garage. It is 52 feet wide on the 12-acre side. So we are actually dramatically decreasing the amount of driveway that we have by pulling it down. We're trying to hide it more on the side of the house. We're wanting to not just have a big concrete slab, but have something that is pretty and nice. Again, Southern Girl wants things to be pretty and nice. And we are putting, the other thing that we're trying to do is hide the trailer on the side yard of the house next to the Vanderbeeks, so that we don't have a trailer parked outside. The 3-car garage is so that we have 1 fewer car parked outside as well. We would like to hide the cars and the trailer from public view, so that they are both kind of cared for, and also, again, to be good neighbors and have our home have a nicer presentation in the overall neighborhood. The other thing is, right now, by moving the kind of front door spot of the house to the 12-acre side, it will provide a much nicer drive up for everyone coming to Leaf Court. It's a much nicer entrance to Leaf Court by having the front of the house instead of a garage and 52-foot wide driveway on the side, on the 12-acre side. So we actually feel like we're improving the look, and the site plan is correct in terms of the landscaping coverage. I just want to make sure that was covered as well.
Great. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So we're going to go ahead and close everything up and have commissioners discussion. Who would like to begin? Let's start. Jude, let's start with you.
Well, Google Street View has lots of good images of trailers and parking and driveway. So, so there's a lot of discussion here on the court, and I am kind of, once again, there's missing information here with the arborist report. I know you say you're going to have an arborist on staff, but impact on a heritage oak, in many jurisdictions, you won't even be able to get within 50 feet of that oak tree, whether it's building or paving. So not having an idea what an arborist opinion of a new driveway, which is construction, which is replacing an irrigated lawn, they're going to be digging down. There's going to be what's called a section. There's going to be excavation. There's going to be base material. There's going to be paving on top of that. So any roots that were in that lawn area for that, and I'm just saying that's probably a, I don't know, 80-year-old, 100-year-old tree. They are going to be definitely affected by the driveway location. So I think there needs to be an actual arborist report, expanding on the impact of a driveway in that location. Now, beyond that, the neighbor directly adjacent has also a driveway there. So it's not only the width of the driveway, but it's adjacent to another driveway. So in that one stretch, if your driveway is 33 feet and I'm just estimating their driveway is 24 feet, we're getting 60, 70 feet of pavement interrupted by a sole magnolia, which is there. It looks like it's relatively healthy, but the impact of the driveway on that magnolia is going to be substantial as well. At a minimum, I was going to suggest that that driveway be reduced to 24 feet in width, and aligning with the third bay of the garage, because it does encroach into the garage space, beyond the garage space. So I would, at a minimum, want some more feedback on that. All the other driveways on the cul-de-sac seem to be normal size, 20 feet or under. So having these two driveways side by side at this width seems excessive to me. I was also curious if the applicant had considered keeping the trailer on 12 acres and adjusting their fence location to accommodate a trailer in, off 12 acres that they could conceal nicely. For some reason, there's a 15 by 15 sightline notation. I don't know, maybe staff can tell us what that's all about. Usually we see that on a corner lot situation, but I don't exactly know what's going on there. So is that another requirement of the neighbor? So that would be good to know. Is it?
It comes from our fencing ordinance. When there's an adjacent driveway, there's a 15-foot sight triangle so any 6-foot tall fence would need to be beyond that.
Okay.
Or I believe a 3 or 4 foot tall fence would be allowed in that triangle, and then a 6-foot tall fence could be beyond that triangle. But it's the neighbor's driveway on 12 acres drive that would require that sight triangle.
Okay, so well, that's good to know. So I don't think that's going to be an option to keep the parking in that side yard location. By the way, I'm wondering if the city has a restriction on paving on corner side yards. It looks like the amount of paving currently in that corner side yards is excessive and beyond 50%. So I think what's going on there is not conforming to our code. So getting back to the house itself, I think that my suggestions were going to be to lower the plate heights consistent with what we typically see. And I think given that this is predominantly a one-story rancher neighborhood, we typically suggest 9-foot plate heights at the first floor and 8 foot at the second. We've been flexible in somewhat in that, but 10 and 9 is excessive in our view. So we would at least condition the approval on reduced plate heights. I am not sure about the back patio and the balcony. I think that's a design decision that the applicant and the architect might want to think through a little bit. But I'll leave that up to them since it is compliant. But I think it's a forced architectural feature on Leaf Court that is not going to serve any purpose other than quote unquote getting light into the stairwell, which I think you can do by other roofline modification. But in general, I think the house is fine with modifications on the height. I just can't see moving forward without addressing the driveway and the impact on the tree, and whether a driveway is appropriate on Leaf Court at all. I'm open to hearing other commentary from my fellow commissioners.
Great. Thank you, Jude. Michael.
Okay. Yeah, for the house, I don't have much problem because other than the play height that you already mentioned, the privacy it's very least concern. Because it's all screening and with the fence, and the neighbor are pretty much okay with that. And besides, it's a very small second floor. I'm not gonna go into the play height, but you already mentioned that. For the tree, since you mentioned that we need to see an arborist report, especially that tree, it's also on the city's right of way. It's not on the private side. So if the applicant would have a arborist report, I would like to also see the arborist address the basement impact, if there's any, since the arborist is gonna be addressing other issues. So would like to see the arborist also discuss about the basement in relative to the trees. Lastly, I want to also talk about that driveway garage placement on the Leaf Court. In addition to what you mentioned, Leaf Court is a much narrower street than 12 acre. So it's only a few. There are only a few houses. So I would like to have the architect and the applicant after getting the arborist report to look at the driveway curb cut. Usually I don't oppose 2-3-car garage, but in this case, I would like to have the applicant and architect look closely and carefully about the how to make the driveway and garage work. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Sam, any comments?
No additional comments, no.
Okay, Frank, do we have any comments from you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
This is crazy with my phone. So, I kind of led off with good design from the design guidelines, which would suggest that the garage belongs on the other street where it is, I guess, currently, right? So we haven't had much discussion about that, which would change kind of the whole placement and design of what's been presented tonight. If the arborist report, which does seem to be a necessity before we certainly could take any action, even with the design as it is now, again, pushes even further that says that, driveway in that space is bad. It's bad for the tree, which is a heritage tree. I still would like to have some discussion amongst the commissioners as to, why we want to put a 3-car garage facing that particular direction when it doesn't really fit with the design guidelines as written. So other than that, the plate heights, I agree, we should reduce those. That's been covered. My question is just around the whole context of how the house is actually placed on the lot and which way the driveway and garage faces.
Okay. Great, thank you. Yeah, my comments are fairly similar. I think the plate heights at 9.6 and 8.5 would work for me. I'd like to see the garage have a trellis or little something over the top of it to give it a little bit more character. I think the driveway, I'd like to see the 3-car. I'm not a huge fan of, but I've seen it. The example being the house that was shown there on Covington, and it does look nice if you have landscaping on both sides. This one is on the right-hand side where the single car in the back, that's all paved over with pavers or whatnot. I'd like to see the driveway just go to the edge of the garage and have a landscaping platform between the cement or the pavers and the yard, the neighbor's yard. So 8-10 feet of landscaping that would help break up the driveway on Leaf Court and the neighbor's driveway. So those are my comments. Any other further comments, or do we have a motion? Oh, and I do want to see an arborist report. So now, do we have a motion? Sam?
Well, my motion would be simply to continue it I don't know if you need to have, there's a lot of issues that have been discussed, and
Well, we do need to give specifics. Michael?
You know, the question is about on top of the arbors, like what Commissioner Bishop said, that do they really need to reconsider put the garage and the driveway back on the 12-acre side? I think that's gonna be a direction we need to come up with. Are we just looking for arborist report and better design on the driveway and garage, or we wanna ask them to reconsider the garage placement?
Well, that's for us to discuss. I mean, we can continue to discuss. You know, for me, I think if the trees, there is no impact with the large oaks, either with the driveway and or the basement, then I don't have that. That's not a large concerning issue if, you know, there's landscaping and all that. So it's not just a giant cement going along that wall. I think you need to cut back the scale of the driveway. But I think in my mind, it might be premature to say, hey, go back, because basically you'd have to redo the whole house, in my opinion, if you're saying, you know, put the driveway on the other side. So, you know, that's why I think the having the arborist report as a major component, have it continue to come back with the arborist report. And if that then says, you know, hey, we got to move, then we can address it at that point. But I think, you know, the plate heights are doable, you know, they're acceptable, they can be worked out. I think it just comes down to the trees, the driveway, and that sort of look and feel.
Okay, I agree with you. If the arborist report, they come back with the arborist report that can support the tree, you know, minimum or no impact to the tree root, and have more consideration and design with the landscaping and mitigate the driveway and garage impact on Leaf Court, then I think I can consider that.
Jude, you got your hand up?
Yeah. So getting back to the arborist report, first of all, the landscape plan shows a 60-inch oak. Any certified arborist will tell you tree protection distances for 60-inch oak, which is would be somewhere between 8 to 12 times diameter of the tree. At 5 feet of diameter, that minimum tree protection would be between 40 to 60 feet for any kind of work, new work. If you're building a basement within the 25-foot setback, it's gonna go down, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 feet. There's gonna be something called an OSHA cut. That OSHA cut will go back towards the tree and impact any roots on that side of the tree. When you couple that with taking out all the landscape area for paving, and there's also tree protection requirements for paving, usually there's less, about 6 times tree diameter. A certified arborist will tell you that you cannot place the driveway nor the basement that close to a tree of that size. So I think, one, getting back to seeing an arborist report, any further discussion on this item needs to come back, and a certified arborist needs to put their name saying that this construction will not impact the health of that tree. Because the design guidelines call for, we need to make findings that this new home as designed will not impact the natural environment And I think at this point, I think us as a commission have determined that the house design does have an impact on the condition of that tree. Regardless of the impact on the cul-de-sac, the tree at itself will be affected by what's going on here. So it's not a bad design, but it's a bad site plan that needs to, take into accommodate the tree. So I would make a motion to continue the item with the specific direction to come back with a certified arborist report, specifically addressing the condition of the impact of the basement on the 60-inch heritage oak, as well as the paving that will basically remove all landscaped area between the oak and the magnolia. And the recommendation should also address the magnolia. And then I would further give specific direction to not allow a driveway width in excess of the average widths of other driveway curb cuts on Leaf Court. I think the owner and the architect can measure all the driveways. And if they come back with a driveway width that's consistent with what else is on the court, I think that would be more amenable, as long as the arborist report is consistent with allowing that width.
So is that a motion?
That would be my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Naz, did you get that?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay, so let's go ahead and vote on it. Michael?
Aye.
Frank?
Aye.
Jude?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
And myself as well is an aye, so it's 5-0 to continue and address, I think it's 2 major items there that Naz
Along
has.
with the plate height.
Yeah, and then, yeah. Okay. So we're continued on item 4. Naz or Sean, do we have any commissioner reports or comments?
No, we do not. We do not currently have. We do have a next
Potential.
few meetings. We do have full agendas, so
Okay.
so we will be busy for the next few months. I think we have quite a few items coming up.
Okay. I would just like to put out there, the second meeting of July, I will be out of state. And I won't be able to view the properties prior to leaving, because I'll actually already be gone. So Michael, if you could handle those duties.
Actually, I was gonna say I'm gonna be all out in July.
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like out of town too.
Okay.
Can we confirm, are there any other commissioners that may be absent during meetings in July?
So I'll be there for the first, but the second one I will not.
I am here.
I'll
for
be
the
here
first-
for.
I'm here for the first meeting. I am traveling on the 19th.
Okay. And Commissioner Bishop, will you be present in the meetings in July?
I don't have my calendar in front of me.
But it looks like the meeting of the 20th, there will only be at most 2 commissioners. Although
Yeah.
I don't know if Michael or Jude can look at the properties ahead of time, or are they gone before they're even presented? Yeah, I leave like the Friday before.
No, I mean, if 3 are out, then that second meeting in July will have to be canceled, or yeah, it'll have to be canceled or reorganize it at a different date if the commissioners have any available dates. We can schedule special meetings. We'll have to look at the agenda list and see how many projects and what effect that'll have, because we may have to talk to you to see if we would we typically do only 3 projects per meeting, and whether you'd be willing to accept a 4th one if they're smaller projects. I'll talk to the chair about it, to Chair Blocker.
I just had, what's the possibility of doing an additional meeting? Like I'm available 13th and 27th. It's just, should everybody send us, or your availability, or?
Yes, you can send me your availability for the last 2 weeks in July, if you'd like. And since we're virtual, meetings can occur really any day of the week, except typically on council meeting dates, which are on Tuesdays.
I can try to, if there's a really short of commissioner attendance, I could try to be online on the July 20th.
Okay, yeah, that would be helpful, because if we have Commissioner Bishop and Commissioner Harding attending, and then
Yeah,
with your
July
attendance,
20 is good for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we'd have the 3rd person, so then we would be fine. So if you could attend, that would be wonderful. We can always send you the addresses of the properties in advance, since we already have projects listed for those dates.
Okay.
Off that date.
All right.
Okay, great.
Okay. So Sean, we should talk.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
And then I guess potential future agenda items. Did the special subcommittee have any reports that they wanted to provide, I guess? Or commissioner reports would allow for special reports if they wanted to request a meeting date or anything like that for SB 9.
Jude, Michael?
Yeah, so Michael and I met yesterday. I think we shared that with Sean and Steve. Michael, you want to go through the points we talked about?
Sorry, I just replied our email, which only includes Steve. I didn't copy Sean because the email been looping. It's only Steve. Copy on. So I can send that email, forward that email to Sean. After this meeting. But basically, Ju and I, we went over some of the items, especially those raised the concern by the public. I don't have that list in front of me, but I think basically the some scenario about the property with the front and back access street, corner lots, and some concern, potential concern. Maybe we want to raise this issue. Potential concern if there are any fire department requirements for long driveway to SB 9, which are usually going to be flag lot. Because I know Santa Clara County Fire, usually they have certain limits of a driveway, maximum length of driveway, and turnaround requirements. Other than that, I know there are a couple more points. Ju, can you remember? Else I can open up my email.
Yeah. So just a quick summary. We discussed the impact of SB 9 applications on properties that had access via an alley, which we thought was desirable and not an issue. We did discuss the properties that had 2 frontages, and there's a few streets in Los Altos that the public has raised concerns about allowing an SB 9 unit to access a previously not accessible street from the back of their property. And we were just going to say that staff should just have some language there that whatever the subdivision map allows, sometimes there's an easement restricting access to a second frontage on these properties. So staff would kind of have to incorporate some language into our ministerial guidelines to accommodate. We talked about corner lots, which are non-issue, and we also talked about flag lots, how access, what potential issues could be there, and that gets back to the fire truck turnaround and access. So somewhere in the ordinance or somewhere in the checklist should be some mention of Santa Clara County fire access and making sure that, you know, whatever the fire district necessitates is provided in the application. So it'll be interesting to see how the fire district approves some of these projects, because there will be a life safety component to these lot splits. And then from there, we talked about second floor windows. You know, we talked about limiting size on side and rear where people are building to the 4-foot minimum. And, you know, we were also saying there should be some accommodation for egress windows. So there should be an exception to allow a window of size if a bedroom is placed in that location, that at least has one window that meets egress. So that could be a checklist item. And then probably a bigger issue we talked about, and maybe something for staff and council to consider, is the ability for the applicant to, if they do want to do a SB9 split, is to potentially shift some of the allowable secondary square footage from one lot to another based on some proportion ratios, meaning that if you split a lot, you're allowed to build a second unit at 800 feet. Well, maybe if one lot says we only want to build a 400 square foot unit, maybe the other lot can build a 1200 square foot unit. Because there was some mention from public about being limited, you know, to the 800 square foot number. And this would be a mechanism for staff, if they follow whatever percentage formula, to allow a little bit bigger units than the 800 square foot would allow. We did not get into any kind of design kind of review, just because I think both Michael and I feel that it's just impossible to ministerially approve good design. You know, everything we do here is subjective, and so it may be best not to have anything in the checklist. We did pull up, Sean, we did pull up Palo Alto's checklist, which is, if you review it, is excessive. It's professionally done and well beyond what Michael and I could wrap our brains around, down to the, you know, lineal footage of this and that, and it was just crazy. An alternative to that is Menlo Park, which had very little, you know, other than what the state says. It says you go follow what the zoning says. So I think Los Altos is somewhere between, but I think what we have on paper right now maybe is a little too much. And until we see some of these applications come through, other than some of the things we've brought up on, you know, daylight plane and heights and whatnot, which are easy for you to, as staff, to review, I think we don't need to go much further in our guidance, if that makes sense. But Michael and I were going to continue our conversation in the next week and come back with any other thoughts based upon, you know, further thinking and further review of kind of what information has been provided to us.
Yeah, Sean, I just forward that email to you, the one I
Okay.
sent it to Steve. Yeah.
And to make sure there isn't a Brown Act violation, where Commissioner Ma and Kara have spoken, no other commissioner should speak about this item, because it would be considered discussion and it would be a Brown Act violation, since we've not noticed this item. It's just a report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So on that note, I mean, we can continue to report back, but I think maybe in August, when more of us are back, there could be more of a scheduled agenda item to review what our recommendations would be.
I mean, one option, you know, we could talk to Steve about it, but one option, it's very common in other commissions to have informational items where there isn't action taken, but it does allow for discussion. If you would like to do that, discussion items, then action has to be taken, and you may not want action taken on the item, or we could just not put it on the agenda, and at least you can just report back and without discussion. Whatever your choice. We could talk about it offline.
Great.
Okay. Anything else?
Seeing none.
Okay. Then I think we're adjourned. Thank you all.
Okay.
Have a long
right.
evening. Have a good
Okay,
night.
good night, everybody.
Okay, good night.